Welcome to Post-Trauma Secrets and Decluttering podcast. This is a season full of surprise. You will learn tons of story and information about holistic decluttering journey, letting go of trauma and clutter, and taking back control of life and home. This season is particularly special because I share the mic with one of our extraordinary students. I had the chance to witness her amazing transformation and to see her take control of her life and find peace and joy. I'm so grateful that she accepted to interview me. As a church pastor, Reverend Tammy was trusted by her congregation to take care for them, in their painful moment. As she cared for others, she was living in her own painful story. At the age of 30, she was diagnosed with post-traumatic stress disorder, or PTSD, and found coping with life's simplest tasks was becoming difficult and taking more of her energy. She decided that nothing was going to take her life from her and began a journey of recovery that she created life that is thriving.
Thank you, Valerie. Well, welcome back, listeners, to another episode of our enlightening series. I'm your host, Tammy, and today we continue our deep dive into understanding the complexities of mental health and well-being. In our previous episodes, we explored the intricate connections between stress, mindset, and the journey of holistic decluttering with our esteemed guest, Valerie from the Do Well Academy. These discussions have been both insightful and transformative. Today, we pivot to a topic that is often shrouded in mystery and misunderstanding: post-traumatic stress disorder, commonly known as PTSD. This condition, affecting countless individuals, can profoundly alter one's perception of time and routine. But what does that mean? How does someone's experience of everyday life change when he or she is struggling with PTSD? Valerie, can you explain how someone with trauma might view their daily routine differently from before trauma or in absence of trauma?
Of course. So when someone goes through trauma, their view of everyday life change a lot. Things that used to be simple, like going to the store or meeting friends, may now feel scary or too hard to do. They may start to need a lot of more structure in their day because it makes them feel safer and more in control. They need for control, they need that the control comes from themselves, okay? They need control of their feeling, their control of vulnerability. The world seems more unpredictable and dangerous than it did before the trauma. They may also avoid doing things or going to places that remind them of the bad experience, which can make sticking to a normal routine difficult. So it's really like every single activity that change, because everything is now in what we call the fight, flight, or freeze response, Everything is kind of, oh, I'm not sure anymore. So, yes.
Valerie, I can so relate to that. With the PTSD, I question everything that I was doing. Was I doing it right? Was I leaving enough time to do it? I just could not be able to make decisions around that. So I certainly relate to what you're saying. Well, what are some of the common challenges people with trauma face with their everyday habits?
Yeah, everyday habits can become really tough for someone who has experienced trauma. They may feel anxious all the time. So it can be hard to leave the house or to be around other people. So even doing regular activity can make them feel tired or scared. As an example, going to the grocery. We all need to eat, but grocery can become a place where there's a lot of people and we feel anxious, or driving, or lots of different things like that. So it definitely impacts an activity that someone is used to do. The other thing is sleeping can become hard too. They may have nightmares or trouble falling asleep because they feel that their heart is racing, which make them really tired during the day. And this tiredness can make it hard to keep up with the daily tasks and affects their moods, making them feel sad or angry quicker.
That certainly makes sense. I know when I sought out help for my post traumatic stress disorder, not really knowing what I was looking for, I went to counselors and said, I'm terribly anxious. I have anxiety. And we treated a symptom. It wasn't until I was introduced to Do Well and we looked at it in a holistic way was I able to recover from my post traumatic stress disorder and my anxiety. So I'm very grateful for Do Well. Well, let's move on to our next question. How does trauma influence somebody's ability to plan for the future or remember past events?
Oh my God, such a good question. Trauma can make it really hard for someone to think, basically to think, whether it's about the future or remembering things properly. Sometimes they may remember the traumatic event very clearly, but they forget other important details from their life. And details sometimes as simple of where are my keys? Where did I park my car? That can raise the anxiety right there. And this can make the past seem confusing and the future scary because they feel like they cannot trust their own mind. When it comes to planning, the fear of something bad happening again may stop them from making plans or trying new things. So then people call them lazy, and they are not because they are afraid of taking action. So they may also find it hard to focus or make decisions, which make planning anything for the future really challenging. And remember, when we talk about the
Yes.
stress a couple episodes ago, we really talk about
Mhm.
how the stress increased the level of cortisol and that slow down the frontal lobe with the executive functions. So making decision, planning, organizing, all these kind of tasks are abilities from our executive functions.
Yes, I do understand that feeling. When the cortisol is high, it is difficult to make decisions. And I just want to, I call it cocooning, just pull an imaginary blanket around myself and close the entire world out. Well, I have been able to release that wrap around me and step out into the world now because of Do Well. But yes, I totally understand what you're talking about. As we move on to our next question, are there specific times of the day that are harder for people with trauma? And if so, why?
Yes, for many people with trauma, morning and late evening can be especially hard. Mornings may bring anxiety as they start the day and worry about what will happen today. Will I do what I have to do, what I want to do? Will I stay stuck? Will I fall asleep on the couch? What will happen today again? And late evening can be tough because things are quieter and they may start thinking a lot about their trauma without daytime distraction. These time can bring back strong memories or feeling related to their trauma. Also, the time when the traumatic event happened may always be a difficult part of the day. So, for example, somebody that a trauma will happen around supper time may have difficulty to eat at supper time versus somebody that the trauma happened at night may be not able to fall asleep at night. So, and it affects also if the trauma happened a specific month or a specific date. It affects also the people a couple weeks before that date and couple weeks after that date.
So I think I understand that you're saying that a time of day or even a time or a certain month or and its date can trigger the trauma feelings all over again. Is that right?
Yes, we call them
Okay.
anniversary date of the trauma. It's not
The
a
anniversary date of the trauma.
nice anniversary, but
No,
they
yes,
call it like
that's
that.
correct. Yes, I know nighttime has been a big struggle for me, and at times it still is. So I do understand that. Why is morning or nighttime routine important?
Let's take the example of Maria, okay? We experienced a traumatic
Okay.
event, let's say a few years ago. Maria found that starting and ending her day in a predictable way helped her manage her anxiety because she knew what will come. Each morning, she would start with a few minutes of stretching, followed by making up a cup of herbal tea. This routine gave her a sense of calm and preparedness for the day ahead. At night, Maria will wind down by reading a chapter of a book and then jotting down a few thoughts in her journal. These routines serve as bookend to her day, providing her structure and peaceful moment that help buffer the stress and unpredictability she sometimes felt. So for someone like Maria, having this stable routine is essential because they create a predictable environment that can reduce the feeling of chaos, making it easier to cope with the unpredictability of the trauma.
Valerie, I really like your analogy of the bookends of your day. It helps in planning the beginning and knowing that as the day ends, there's a time of rest to be able to put things in perspective and just to let go of things. I like that analogy, the bookends. Well, is it challenging for a person coping with trauma to establish a routine? I imagine establishing this routine doesn't happen overnight.
No, not at all. So establishing a routine can indeed be quite challenging for someone dealing with trauma. Consider the story of Tom, okay? Let's say Tom returned from military service with PTSD. Initially, Tom found it incredibly difficult to adhere to any sort of daily schedule. His sleep was erratic and his day were unstructured, which often left him feeling overwhelmed and directionless. With the help of a therapist or with just putting in place some routine, Tom began to implement small, manageable activities that will become habit. And starting with simple tasks like making the bed every morning or preparing a healthy breakfast, gradually these small steps becomes habit and will grow into a more comprehensive routine that includes regular exercise, time for meditation, and so on. It wasn't an overnight change, and there were setbacks, but over time, these routines helped Tom feel more in control of his day and of his emotions. Establishing a routine takes patience and persistence, especially when coping with trauma. But the stability it brings can be profoundly healing.
That is, when I hear the words profoundly healing, I find that such a great comfort. And it is such a great process when it's broken down into small steps. So the small steps lead to building bigger,
Yes.
bigger routine for a person um, recovering from post-trauma. So I thank you for that, Valerie. That was awesome enlightenment and sharing that answer with us. Well, I know there are strategies. So what are the strategies that help people with trauma manage their time and their routines better?
First of all, having a clear and simple routine can help a lot. That's period. That by itself is a strategy. It makes the day predictable and feel safer and calmer. So you can add inside that routine relaxation technique like deep breathing, gentle yoga, and you can also add other strategy to reduce the stress. Using tools like calendar or reminders can help people track what they need to do, which help them feeling organized and less overwhelmed. And when I talk about reminders, there's reminders in the phone, but you can put post-it at some place in your home. There's really different types of reminders. And joining a support group can also provide guidance and make them feel less alone in their struggle.
Yes, most definitely. Joining Do Well has helped me tremendously not to feel alone with the struggles and learning the strategies to manage the stress and to promote healing. Thank you again. Thank you, Valerie. Well, how important is structure or routine in taking control of one's life for someone with trauma?
Structure and routine are very, very important. I cannot emphasize that enough, okay? Because when you have been through trauma, everything is upside down. You don't have a harbor anymore. You don't have a lighthouse anymore. Okay? Everything is upside down. So the routine acts like a safe foundation in the day-to-day life, making the world seem less chaotic. Knowing what will happen next can be very calming and helping them feel more in control. This can be really important in helping them heal as they slowly start to feel that they can manage their daily life without feeling overwhelmed or by fear of anxiety.
That is such a gift, being able to manage daily life without that fear or anxiety. Is it challenging for a person with trauma to take ownership of their time? If so, what can he or she do to make it easier?
Yeah, taking ownership of one's time is challenging for everybody. So when we say for someone that experienced trauma, it's kind of another level of complexity. Let's take Sarah, for example. She found herself frequently overwhelmed by her responsibility and the demand of daily life after surviving a serious car accident. She felt like her time was out of her control, with medical appointments, work commitments, family needs, all pulling her in different directions. So to manage better, Sarah started using a digital planner to block out specific time for resting, for activities she enjoyed, and commitments she needs to keep. She also set aside short periods of time during the day just for deep breathing exercise, which help her manage stress and anxiety. So by visually seeing her time plan out, because time is an abstract concept, but by seeing it inside the calendar, Sarah began to feel more in control and less like she was at the mercy of a chaotic schedule. For anyone struggling with trauma, starting with small steps like prioritizing activities and setting clear boundaries can gradually lead to better time management and a greater sense of ownership over their life.
Yes, I remember the day that you said to me, your time is your own. And that seemed to just clear away everything else. And it was so helpful to me to know that my time is my own and I have the right to make decisions about how I spend that time. That is a great lesson. What advice would you give to someone who wants to help a loved one with trauma manage their time and daily activities better?
The best way to help is to be patient and listen to what they need.
Hmm.
Try to understand that some day may be harder than others, and that it's okay if plans need to change. Help them create a daily routine that includes times for activity that your loved one is enjoying and plenty of breaks for resting. Encourage them gently to stick to this routine, but also be flexible when things feels too much or when something just pop up. Offer to do activities with them. They may feel scared or anxious about going to the grocery or driving alone or going to a yoga practice. And by doing it two together, that is really comforting. So most importantly, let them know you are there for them, offering support and understanding as they navigate their recovery at their own pace. You cannot force someone to recover. It needs to be at their own pace.
As we wrap up today's conversation on how trauma affects our perception of time and daily routines, I hope you have found the insights and stories we shared both enlightening and helpful. Understanding the challenges of establishing routines and taking ownership of time can be crucial for those coping with trauma, as well as their loved ones trying to support them. It's all about taking small, manageable steps toward creating a structured day that can provide stability and a sense of safety. Thank you so much for joining us today. If you found this episode valuable, please don't forget to subscribe to our podcast on your favorite platform. We have insightful topics coming up, and you won't want to miss the next episode, where we'll explore how to start decluttering our spaces without falling into the trap of procrastination. It's going to be a practical guide to clearing up our physical clutter, which is something that can benefit us all. So make sure to tune in. And if you enjoyed today's episode, please consider leaving a review and sharing it with someone who might benefit from our discussion. Your support helps us reach more listeners and keeps the conversation going. Until next time, take care of yourselves and keep making those small changes that lead to big differences in your life. We'll see you on the next episode.